Call of Duty Zombies has always been shrouded in mystery, especially in the earlier days from, I would say, World at War II Black Ops 3. There were a ton of characters involved in this story that we really didn't know too much about, whether it be Dr. Maxis, John Banana, Smokey, even more familiar characters, Samantha. But one character in our zombie storyline that we really didn't know much about was the astronaut on Moon. This guy, or should I say zombie in a spacesuit, that really does nothing more than follows you around. But knowing COD Zombies and Treyarch specifically, there was always a deeper meaning behind everything. This wasn't just a zombie in a spacesuit. We knew there had to be a deeper story behind him, but for the longest time, we were left in the dark. Left to come up with our own theories, which, to be fair, is what the earlier days of COD Zombies was all about. Treyarch not giving us every answer, not giving us every bit of information, leaving it to us to come up with the story ourselves. And that's what we did, until Treyarch told us his official arc, finally, in Black Ops 4. We now know everything there is to know about the astronaut zombie on Moon. And in order to learn more about him, we first need to go a little bit further back in time, to World at War, Derice, where after the first major zombie outbreak happened, Group 935 was disbanded. Without this event, this astronaut wouldn't exist. But as I was saying, once Group 935 was disbanded and all of the employees no longer had a job, Richtofen, who worked for them before he went on to complete his big evil grand scheme and take control of the undead for himself, he made sure he told the Pentagon to hire some of these former Group 935 scientists. And one of those scientists, who was very good friends with Richtofen, was Dr. Schuster. Upon Richtofen's recommendation, and if you're wondering why the Americans were listening to Richtofen being a German, well, it was initially Richtofen who betrayed Group 935, who were working with the Nazis. He went to the Americans and sold them Group 935's work. Richtofen was playing both the Americans and the Germans. He really had no care for politics. He really had no care for anyone other than himself. And you could also say, judging by this, he cared about his colleagues as well. But once the Americans hired Dr. Schuster, he then began working at the Pentagon, where he was instructed to link a teleporter between Groom Lake and the Pentagon. After 2 long years of calculations, Schuster managed to achieve this. However, this left the Americans wanting more, and so they then told Schuster to build a teleporter that connected Groom Lake, or Area 51, to the Moon, a place where they knew a base existed. This base that was originally constructed by Richtofen, called Griffin Station. The Americans, as a part of the space race between them and the Soviets, wanted to be the very first to step foot on the Moon, and they were going to do this by teleporting there. However, the Americans' urgency to get this done and reach Griffin Station before the Soviets made Schuster worried. He was scared that if he got any of his calculations incorrect, it could lead to them not only teleporting simply from one place to another, but through both space and time to a different date. It could cause a ripple effect that would undo the very fabric of space-time itself.
I'm just a little confused, Dr. Schuster. You've already successfully established a teleporter link between the Pentagon and Groom Lake.
The Pentagon to Groom Lake is child's play. A distance of 3,890 kilometers. What we're talking about now is a distance of 380,000 kilometers.
But it can be done.
Of course, Colonel Sawyer, but I had 2 years to perfect the link to Groom Lake. The timetable you've given me to establish a link to the Moon is far more aggressive.
Do I need to remind you what we're up against? Dr. Richtofen told us about Griffin Station back in '45. From what we've discovered, he told the Soviets the same thing. The Soviets achieved teleportation 2 years before we did. If they get to the Moon first, they get to claim Griffin Station.
Yes, I know all about your adorable space race. But need I remind you that if this teleporter becomes operational, even a single mathematical error could lead to catastrophic results. Yes, it will take you to the Moon. I have little worry over where it will take you. I worry about when.
What? Time travel? Give me a break.
Precisely. If the specifications are not exact, we could create temporal rifts with ripple effects that will undo the very fabric of space-time itself. Simply put, don't rush. Science moves at its own pace.
Just get it done, Doctor. You have 2 weeks before we begin testing.
After just 2 weeks of testing, they began their experiments attempting to teleport men to the Moon.
Log entry 97, August 3rd, 1963. The matter transference device has been realigned. Again, in order to accommodate additional temporal variables. This is test number 11, human subject 5, one Private Hastings. If the transference specs are correct, Private Hastings will arrive at Griffin Station on August 3rd, 1963. If he arrives at this date, a communication link will be successfully established, and we will have confirmed that the teleporter's temporal anomalies have been compensated for. Are you ready, Private Hastings?
Yes, sir.
I can't understand a word of what he's saying in that ridiculous spacesuit. A simple thumbs up will suffice, Private Hastings. Good. Initiate the transference matrix. Moment of truth. Dr. Richards, did it work? Do we have a stable connection?
No, sir. Nothing. We've lost him.
That's the 5th man we've lost. This base is rapidly running out of privates. Oh, I suppose they're all just dancing around on the moon somewhere in the far future, having a grand old time.
As a part of test number 11, Human Subject 5, Dr. Schuster and the Americans attempted to teleport someone to the moon called Private Hastings. After realigning the teleporter several times, this meant that Private Hastings should arrive in Griffin Station on August the 3rd, 1963, on the same day that they teleported him. And so, whilst in his spacesuit, Hastings was teleported from Groom Lake. However, it didn't work. There was no stable connection between Griffin Station and Groom Lake, and Private Hastings was lost. He had been sent into the future. But Hastings wasn't the only one. He was, at this time, the 5th person that they'd sent to the moon, but further into the future. And that explains why we see him on the moon when we are there over 40 years later. These people were teleported by Schuster in the 60s, and when we arrive on moon as Ultimus, we are there in the year 2025, and we can see these astronauts are still there wandering around. However, they are now zombies. They'd become infected with 115, and every astronaut that we kill, every time they come back, that is a new person that was teleported up to Griffin Station in the 60s. If you go close to them, you will hear radio chatter coming from their spacesuit. Showing there is still a radio connection between them and Area 51. But yeah, these are now, I guess, simply put, zombies in spacesuits. And they got here because of an unfortunate event, because Schuster wasn't given enough time to get his calculations correct, which ended up sending these scientists further into the future. With no way for them to be contacted anymore, they were left up here, left to turn into the undead. And that is the unfortunate story of the astronaut that we find on moon. So there we go. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Are there any other characters you'd like to know about, or anything in the zombie story that you'd like to know about? Drop a like rating if you've enjoyed. Make sure you are subscribed, leave your comments, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.